Okay, good afternoon once again to you, and welcome back, my colleagues. Now, as I said in the morning, let us come back to the recommendations on the issues linked to the annual number of files. So those are, the paragraphs shown on the screen are the ones that Bureau wants to propose as a group. So let me just go one by one. First of all, the annual seating. The annual number of nominations to the urgent safeguarding list, the representative list, and to the register of good safeguarding practices that can be treated in total is to be set at least 55 and no more than 60. I do recognize the fact that we did not include the proposal for the bigger number, at least 75, at least 60, no more than 70. We did not include it because, in paragraph 3, we had lengthy discussions. In there, we agreed, we will try to agree that we will deal with the issue of financial and human resources before increasing the number of files to be treated in a year. And therefore, logically, the number of the files to be examined in a year should stay as it is for the time being. So for that reason, we did not include the suggestions for a bigger number in this. And I would like to open the floor for comments, but I would like to draw attention to the fact that this particular formulation is linked to the third paragraph. So, first of all, because on the third paragraph, we are very close to the agreement. So that probably means that we agree on the principle that at this moment in time, we will stay with the number as it is and look for financial and human resources to increase the number of files in the future. So on that understanding, is there any delegation which has a problem with the first paragraph? Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a problem. I just, like I said, before, we are okay with this, number 1, because we had a lengthy discussion for the, paragraph 3. So just Kuwait, just to support what we have in number 1, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other delegations? Morocco, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je n'ai pas de problème par rapport au premier paragraphe, si ce n'est peut-être la fin du paragraphe, même si vous avez raison de le souligner, c'est lié au troisième paragraphe, qui parle éventuellement, bien sûr, de l'augmentation du nombre de dossiers. Ce pas plus de 60 nous enferme un peu par rapport aux perspectives. Donc, si, à mon avis, je pense qu'on devrait laisser le paragraphe comme ça, puis nous arrêter à la phrase « au moins 55 ». Parce que le « pas plus de 60 » nous enferme, j'ai le sentiment. Donc moi, c'est une réflexion que j'émets à l'appréciation des collègues qui participent avec nous aujourd'hui. « Pas plus de 60 » me dérange un peu. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Okay, before I offer my observation, please, Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Et avec tout le respect ambassadeur du Maroc, c'est justement pour enfermer un peu parce qu'on ne voulait pas excéder ce plafond de 60 expédients. Alors, je crois que c'était justement l'idée. Je sais qu'on vient de parler des exceptions, etc., mais là, je voudrais continuer à avoir le plafond de 60, vu que après, ce qu'on va faire, c'est inviter toute la réflexion pour y pouvoir augmenter justement ce plafond. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Burkina Faso.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Par rapport à ce point, en fait, c'est un peu une question d'éclaircissement par rapport au minima. Ma délégation ne se prononcera pas sur le maxima, mais c'est par rapport au minima. Lorsqu'on dit au total doit être d'au moins 55, c'est vrai qu'actuellement, par rapport notamment aux documents qui nous ont été transmis, on est sur une situation là où on a beaucoup de dossiers en attente. Pour cela, je pense que c'est important que l'on parle de minima. Mais admettons qu'on ait moins. Est-ce que ça veut dire qu'en ce moment, on croise les doigts et puis on attend que ça atteigne 55 pour pouvoir traiter de ces dossiers? Bon, à la limite, ce que je voudrais dire est qu'on pourrait, si on dit au plus 60, ça veut dire que c'est de 0 à 60. Voilà, mais avant en tout cas de faire ces propositions, c'est d'avoir un éclaircissement sur le minimum. Merci bien.
Yeah, thank you very much. There is a history to this, but anyway, let me give the floor to Austria to be followed by Lithuania. Austria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to echo what Colombia has said. We had lengthy discussions yesterday concerning the ceiling, and I think coming back to the documents under option A, I think that a majority then, or maybe I did not count it, but many delegations were in favor of having the ceiling here. So I suggest to keep it here as it is suggested by the Bureau and the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Austria, please. Sorry, Lithuania, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est juste pour soutenir aussi ce qui a été dit par les délégués de la Colombie et de l'Autriche. C'est que vraiment, malheureusement, nous sommes obligés de nous limiter et d'avoir ce plafond de 60, pas plus que 60 dossiers. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would like to second what my colleague, Ambassador of Kuwait, has said, and I would like also to echoing you, Your Excellency, when you said that the amendment by China was not added when we increase the number. So yes, of course, we are willing to live with number 1 as is, with the cap, but making sure that we accept 3 as well in its entirety without editing it. That's conditional. With that, I think we can reach consensus and move forward to the next items. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I have the same impression. Okay, we still have 2 delegations wanting to take the floor. Egypt to be followed by Venezuela. Egypt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We agree with number 1 as it is, but we recommend to delete the minimum number. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Venezuela, please.
Thank you, Chair. No, we could support the proposal made by Kuwait. However, in view to move the discussion further, we can accept the cap at 60, ensuring that 3 remains as it is. So we look forward to the discussion that will be happening to be able to perhaps raise the cap, at least on a temporary basis, to allow to promote the unclogging that we have seen so far. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, the question of minimum number, 55, this has a history. We had a discussion, I think it was, when was it? That 2 meetings ago. We did have a very heavy discussion on this particular meeting, on this particular issue. And there was a suggestion at that time, let's not set the cap number, but let's go for the minimum number, which was 55 at that time. But Secretariat voluntarily made an effort to increase it to 60. That is why 2 numbers are still here. It's not very logical how to have a minimum number here. And could I just go back to Kuwait? Are you okay with the deletion of the minimum number, or would you like to, because it was your suggestion originally, so, you know, is it okay to get rid of this minimum number, or would you like to keep it there?
No, we are okay, Mr. Chair, with the, removing the minimum number like our colleagues from Burkina Faso. That's fine with us.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's, in that case, let's get rid of this, at least 55. Let's end.
In total is to be no more, is to be set at no more than 60.
Yeah, okay, so that particular part that reads now, that can be treated in total is to be, do we need set at? Well, anyway, is to be set at no more than 60.
Yep.
So delete the list 55 and. Okay, any objections to this? Otherwise, we would like to go ahead with this formulation. Any objections? So I don't see any. Well, thank you very much, and let's move to the second paragraph. Okay, the second paragraph is more or less agreed. All requests for international assistance are to be examined by the Bureau of the Committee. The requests should not exceed $100,000 except for emergency requests. This is the result of the discussions yesterday. So I hope there is no objection to this. I don't see any raising of hand. Okay, thank you very much, and this, I think, is agreed. Now let me move to the paragraph 3. This is the most important paragraph, and we, as a group, we try to get elements, different elements suggested by different delegations, and this is the formulation that we have at this moment. Let me read it to make sure. Sustainable staffing requirements of the Secretariat need to be resolved for the support required to further implement the 2003 Convention, including the work of the evaluation body. The Secretariat is to prepare a detailed proposal on the financial and human resources needed for developing the listing mechanism in order to increase the annual ceiling of nominations. This proposal should be submitted for examination by the committee for transmission to the 10th session of the General Assembly and to the Executive Board of UNESCO in order to decide on the allocation of necessary resources for the sustainable staffing requirements of the Secretariat. This is an effort to try to capture all the thoughts suggested by many other delegations. We have now 2 sentences for 1 sentence which we were talking about earlier. But this separation of 1 sentence into 2 does not have any substantive meaning. It's just that the sentences were a bit too long. So with that, any views? Portugal to be followed by Colombia. Portugal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We fully support this paragraph, and we have absolutely no problem with the drafting. And there is only a minor point, I believe. It is the order. It shouldn't be for transmission in the end, for transmission first to the executive board and afterwards the General Assembly. Because I do believe that such a matter will be indeed examined before by a session of the executive boards before being on the agenda of the 10th session of the General Assembly. So the suggestion would be just to change the order for transmission to the executive board of the UNESCO and to the 10th session of the General Assembly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Colombia.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, I mean, sorry again, I'm being really intense, but this will be my last intensity. So I would like to, in the first sentence, and this is my justification. I really don't believe, as I said in the morning, and I believe I had also some support, that this, even though we are speaking about increasing the ceiling, and we agree on this, but if we are going to look for resources, we can do it as well for everything if we are going to put ourselves in this job. So if we can say that, and I send it by writing, I guess you work it on the Bureau, I understand, but I really would like to have sustainable staffing requirements of the Secretariat need to be resolved for the support required for further implementation of the purposes of the Convention, which is basically Article 1 of the Convention. And then we widen up. Don't worry, it will be good for the other group as well later. And here we take off including the work of the evaluation body, because we are going to put it after. So it's better written, I believe. So, and then the Secretariat is to prepare a detailed proposal for the financial and human resources needed for developing the listing mechanism, comma, including the work of the evaluation body, because here we had all our discussion about how they have to work differently, that needs more resources in order to increase the ceiling. So including the work of the evaluation body and the increase of the annual ceiling of nominations. And in that sense, and I repeat, what I want to propose is that, of course, this is a priority. Of course, we are all interested in continuing this discussion about the ceiling, but what will happen if we increase the ceiling, if we have more nominations, and after we have more elements in the list, and we need to examine all their periodic reports? We will need also more money. So I believe that this really has to be a joint and integral and holistic review of the staffing in order to be really sustainable, and not only sustainable for this particular subject. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Just to clarify, so needed for developing the listing mechanism, including the work of the evaluation body, and
we can delete to and increase the annual ceiling of nomination. So we deleted the second in order.
Maybe in order to the increase in the annual ceiling, right? Because this has to be a noun.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Now the floor is open. Austria to be followed by Venezuela. Austria, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the delegation of Colombia for this slight change. which I fully agree with, also concerning the rationale of this amendment. One small amendment I would propose is to have the insertion of the including a little bit earlier, having to prepare a detailed proposal on the financial and human resources needed, including the work of the evaluation body and developing the listing mechanism to increase the annual ceiling. So have it one half a line earlier after needed, to have the insertion after resources needed. Needed, including the work of the evaluation, and then we specify. So the idea is to prepare the proposal on the financial resources for one, the work of the evaluation body, and for developing the listing mechanisms to increase the annual ceiling of nominations.
This is now resources of the evaluation body.
So are you, again, clarification here. Are you also talking about the resources, financial and human resources for the evaluation body?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
speaking about the same things. So the Secretariat is asked to prepare a detailed proposal on the financial and human resources needed. So what does the Secretariat need concerning financial and human resources? And here they should take into account the work of the evaluation body and the necessary resources for developing the listing mechanism to increase the annual ceiling of nominations.
No, I think we are talking about two different things. If you have if you have it here, including work of the evaluation bodies, it looks as if you want to increase the number of evaluators, or you want to kind of you want to have more money or human resources for the evaluation body itself. But it's actually what we're talking about, the Secretariat work for supporting the evaluation body, right? Because we're not talking about the increase of the members of the evaluation body, or we're not talking about the frequencies of travel. Well, this doesn't happen, but frequencies of travel or anything like that. The cost, in fact, is for the Secretariat rather than for the evaluation body.
Yes, so that's what is meant.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm not sure if it's the right place. But anyway, this was my clarification question. Let me now go back to the list of speakers. Venezuela to be followed by Saudi Arabia. Venezuela, please.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so a couple of things. Again, we would have preferred the para as it was originally presented before the amendments. And I would kindly request the Secretariat to, exactly, because they were taken away from the screen. So reacting to Colombia's proposal, we could accept, although we do not really like, but we are thinking, or in view of consensus, the proposed implementation of the purposes of the 2003 Convention. However, we do think it dilutes and strays away from the mandate of this working group that is based on the listing mechanism and how to work and deal with the situation and the clogging that we see at hand. So that's why we prefer to strike it out, but if there's support in the room for this, we could accept with it. With Austria's proposal, we do not understand it. We have the same questions that you presented. And with the last Colombian proposal, including the work of the evaluation body to increase, I would rather change the order because the focus again, and the point of this was to find an agreement or a common, at least the smallest agreement, which was what the requirements to be able to increase, however slightly, the annual ceiling. And finally, having said this, I'm unsure about the word developing the listing mechanism, because it seems like we do not have a listing mechanism. We have a listing mechanism, so perhaps to strengthen it, or to, what's the word with here? I forgot the word. Not promoting it, yeah, I would say to strengthen it, or to. Right now, the word, it completely escapes my mind. I am very sorry. When it comes back to it, I'll write it down on the chat. But I just wanted to say that developing, it's quite, I don't think it's the precise word. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Perhaps improving, but whatever it is. Okay, let me just go back to the list of speakers. Saudi Arabia to be followed by Cuba and Kuwait, and let's stop there. Saudi Arabia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Venezuela was looking for improving, which actually makes sense, the wording. Having said that, I think we are now straying a bit from the consensus. And that will take us back to point number one. The language as it was fair. I think it was decent. It was undiluted. And I understand and I thank Colombia for their effort to strengthen the language. Yet it seems to me that it is now more diluted. I see the purpose of having the implementation of the purpose of 2003. I see it is more of an overarching issue. Maybe it can be covered in the other issues requiring further reflection, because it has so many issues underneath. I think we should go back to the original proposed paragraph, removing the latest, and I really thank Colombia for that, but I think now we are diluting the language. Let's remove it. I think we're reaching consensus on it, and maybe improve the word with strengthening or improving with Venezuela, and that's it. Otherwise, I am obliged to go back to number one again. I see that there's an effort to have something here, but the more we add, Mr. Chair, the more we are going to dilute the language and make it less efficient. This is my point of view. Maybe I'm less knowledgeable, but please let us accept the language as is and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Cuba to be followed by Kuwait, and let's stop there. Cuba, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Félicitations pour la gestion impeccable de votre présidente dans ce groupe de travaux. Nous savons, et je voudrais remercier aussi à la Colombie pour la proposition. C'est une question intéressante pour une réflexion, mais une réflexion indépendante de ces mécanismes. Pourquoi? Parce que ça, c'est une question qui peut ouvrir une porte dans processus de réflexion sur la réforme de l'organe d'évaluation. C'est un processus pratiquement jeune. Il y a 10 années qu'on avait changé tous les mécanismes de l'organe d'évaluation. On avait rajouté les organisations de la société civile, on avait augmenté un peu les membres. Pour ça, je pense que ce sont deux questions très importantes pour les mécanismes d'inscription, mais nous sommes justement dans les points concernant quel est le système qu'on va établir concernant les présentations des dossiers de candidature. Et si est-ce qu'on accepte ces propositions, nous sommes en train d'ouvrir une porte pour un processus de réforme de l'organe d'évaluation. Et je pense que nous ne sommes pas dans les moments corrects, parce que ça, ce n'est pas le mandat de ces groupes, commencer à travailler concernant la modification de l'organe d'évaluation. Je comprends la préoccupation de la Colombie concernant à la question des ressources financières pour les travaux de cet organe d'évaluation, pour les travaux du secrétariat. Mais je pense que le point plus important, c'est de mettre des besoins durables et sostenibles au personnel du secrétariat. Si est-ce qu'on met l'organe d'évaluation, on commence à compliquer un peu la question. Et pour ça, ce qui, à notre point de vue, c'est une question à soutenir, c'est une question à mettre dans un côté de notre feuille, mais pour cet paragraphe, on préfère la version du bureau et probablement dans le cadre de l'Assemblée générale, nous pouvons réfléchir si est-ce que nous avons besoin de passer un processus de réforme de l'organe d'évaluation pour améliorer toutes ces mesures que nous sommes en train de réfléchir aujourd'hui, quand ils mettent en place, si est-ce que finalement on va les faire. Et après, on pourrait regarder, nous pouvons réfléchir sur l'organe d'évaluation, mais notre impression, c'est que ça complique un peu la question. Merci et merci à la Colombie pour mettre ce point que c'est très important aussi.
Thank you very much. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, again, let me start again. Appreciate what Colombia trying to do, but it's always nice to have resources for everything. But here we are focusing by the Secretariat, and for me to make the Secretariat work more practical, they need a benchmark. Benchmark is with the evaluation. Once we broaden the benchmark, it will be very hard for them to cover every single thing. I understand it, but here we are very focused, so they have a clear benchmark so they can reach it from the resources needed and the human resources. So to me, that's why the first initial proposal by Colombia, unfortunately, I don't agree with. Definitely, I don't think that the Austria its places here. We are focusing on the Secretariat, and let's also our colleagues from Cuba said, let's not enter into that, because this is now we are entering a totally different venue. So with that, I don't mind the language when the Venezuela saying strengthening from instead of developing. That's okay. Second part of Colombia, again, they are just changing the orders. Doesn't so I'm okay with it. I don't know, but maybe the Secretariat can enlighten us. But the Portuguese, I think our approach is, once we decided here, we're gonna go to the 9th General Assembly, have a string mandate. When we go to the Executive Board, we have a string. We have a strong justification for the increase of the resources, and I'm sure once when we have the resources and everything, finally we're going to go back to the 10th General Assembly for the final approval. With that, I rest my case, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, before moving on to the next speakers, I would like to offer more observations, because this is very important from the chair's perspective. We started with discussions. We started these discussions with a clear division of positions. It was clear that some people wanted to keep the number of files to be treated in a year at the current level, and some delegations clearly wanted to increase it to a bigger number. And that was also China mentioned it, and also some other delegations did work for that purpose. Now, we agreed, after lengthy discussions, we agreed that if you want to discuss the increase of number of files to be treated in a year, we have to strengthen the financial and human resources in the Secretariat, because this was a kind of element. This was an element which has prevented us from discussions about the number of files, the increase of number of files. And therefore, the balance here is that, okay, the delegations wanted to have a bigger number, have agreed that before talking about it, okay, let's find a way to strengthen the financial and human resources of the Secretariat so that we can make it possible. So the original proposal from the Bureau tried to reflect the kind of consensus emerging in the room. It was an effort to bridge the gap between the different positions. So from that perspective, if you add more elements into it, as Saudi Arabia said, we would dilute the issue and complicate the process. Let's have a clear focus on this. This is a result of a big compromise, and the success of this working group depended on that particular element. So as a chair and as a member of the Bureau, I strongly appeal to the room that original proposal for the Bureau did reflect the compromise that was necessary to have a successful conclusion in this working group. So from that point of view, I would like to urge one more time that original version from the Bureau does that work. The issue of the evaluation body, yes, it is important, but as Cuba said, we are not talking about changing the structure or composition or working method of the evaluation body in this working group. There was a suggestion to that effect, but we agreed not to do it now. So with all due respect, and also, well, you know, I'm always impressed by your constructive and innovative ideas, but this time, I think for the sake of consensus, I wish to keep the original version, which reflects the compromise better than the new formulation suggested. So with that, I would like to go back to the list of speakers. Colombia to be followed by Vietnam. Colombia, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your comments. I mean, you know me, and you know me here and in other scenarios as well. You know, I'm the most flexible for the consensus. I give up my mind. You know that. But this time, I will not, despite your recommendations, because I just don't agree. I'm sorry. So the question of the evaluation body, if you want to take it off, take it off. It was in the original one. I don't mind. I just changed it, the order, because I thought it was more coherent. If you want to take it off, for me, it's the same. I mean, I'm not pro augmenting the ceiling. So for me, if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. So it's okay. I don't think that minds. But I don't believe neither that bearing in mind the whole of the convention for this specific thing is diluting the language. Why? Because having something that is the most important, which I guess is the discussion here, which is the listing mechanism for certain countries, including me personally, I will have to say, doesn't mean that the other things aren't important. So if you are looking for more resources for the sustainability, you cannot see it isolated for the rest. So that's why, and you know, at the beginning, I was one of the people who said, including who tried to pull this up, who supported pulling this particular paragraph, which wasn't in the first option that I preferred in the beginning. So I fully agree, and I think this is necessary, as I said, and I think it will bring us. But why are we concerned of this? Because we want this convention to work, and we want the safeguarding of the intangible heritage. I think we all agree on that. But for that, we need to be a little more ambitious, in the sense that something as important as increasing the ceiling comes with a lot of things by the side. Not only all the process of the evaluation, but also the process of the follow-up, which is more demanding even than the submission of the files. So I really believe that if we bear in mind something more wider of the convention, is not diluting, it's having a very better vision for the future and for the sustainability on the future. That being said, if you don't want to include the work of the evaluation body, then I don't know what's the thing. If one of the notes in the working document was precisely that evaluating each file has a cost between $18,000 and $20,000 because of the cost of the secretariat, etc. So if you take it away from that, I don't see how it makes stronger the language. I think that's one of the main problems. The second thing is that if you want to work to revise the staff and the resources, human resources and money resources on the evaluation body, it's of course because we want to continue discussing in this increase of the annual ceiling of the nominations. So I think one thing doesn't go with it another. I can be wrong. As I said, if you want to strike it out, it's all right. but I would like to have a wider view and not to think that this is a problem, but actually an opportunity. I really believe that this will give very important tools for the future. And if we make it right, we will for sure be able to strengthen the convention for the future, because we know we are being short and, how Eos put it, victim of its own success. So that's my point of view. That said, for sure I will be flexible, etc. after, but for now, I mean, come on, bear with me also a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Vietnam to be followed by Morocco.
Well, thank you, Chair. And I think we fully understand the views by Colombia, and we really appreciate the proposal by our Colombian colleague. But I share the views with many colleagues talking before me that within the framework of the working group, so maybe we should focus first on the work of the Secretariat. And because regarding the evaluation body and other issues, maybe we can touch upon in another chance, because it's, as Colombian colleagues have talked that, well, we should have ambitious view, but I think maybe we give that for another chance. And in this regard, Vietnam fully support the draft proposed by the Bureau, and that's really reflect the compromise and also which have been discussed this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Morocco to be followed by Lithuania. Morocco, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je joins ma voix à ceux qui se sont exprimés avant moi, justement, pour revenir à la version initiale, parce qu'effectivement, elle reflète le compromis qui avait été trouvé. Je remercie la Colombie, bien sûr, pour les efforts faits en vue d'améliorer le texte, mais c'est vrai que nos discussions ont été bien reflétées dans le compromis et dans la version proposée par le Bureau, avec peut-être le rajout du Venezuela qui est tout à fait pertinent, remplacé, développé par renforcé. Parce que j'imagine que soutenir la poursuite nécessaire pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention de 2003 veut dire nécessairement les objectifs. Donc, est-ce qu'on a besoin de rajouter les objectifs de la Convention? À partir du moment où on soutient la poursuite nécessaire pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention, ça veut dire que nous soutenons la mise en œuvre pour atteindre les objectifs de la fonction. Donc, je ne vois pas que rajouter objectifs soit véritablement nécessaire, de même pour ce qui est des mécanismes d'inscription sur les listes. Quand on parle de mécanismes d'inscription sur les listes, ça inclut automatiquement évidemment le travail des organes d'évaluation. Donc, nous n'avons pas besoin nécessairement de rajouter et de le dire, parce que les mécanismes d'inscription sur le liste intègrent évidemment le travail des organes d'évaluation. Le plus important, effectivement, c'est ce plafond annuel des candidatures. Donc, moi, je soumets à l'appréciation des collègues que nous puissions revenir à la version initiale proposée par le Bureau, et peut-être avec le rajout proposé par le Venezuela, et peut-être aussi le Portugal. Moi, ça ne me dérange pas qu'on avance Conseil exécutif et puis Assemblée générale par la suite. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Now, Lithuania to be followed by Switzerland. Lithuania, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, maybe because I cannot also join to the majority of speakers which have spoken before me, but I would like to support the draft proposal made by the Secretariat, but as amended by Colombia. Because a very similar proposal or amendment I have sent also before break to the Secretariat, but also just accentuating this including. For me, it's also okay if we can, it's possible to take out this including the work of the evaluation body, but I think the important thing is this accent or pointing this including increase of annual ceiling of nomination. I think it's crucial this broader sense when we speak about this position. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now Switzerland to be followed by the Netherlands.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Notre délégation, ce matin, est intervenue pour mettre en évidence aussi la nécessité d'avoir une vision large et de réfléchir non seulement sur l'augmentation du nombre de dossiers, mais le maintien de la qualité, de la pertinence du travail qui est fait dans le cadre des évaluations. Et dans ce sens, nous voulons vraiment fortement soutenir le travail, les amendements qui ont été proposés par la Colombie. Ils nous paraissent mieux refléter les discussions de ce matin. Et l'effort de consensus est aussi dans cette direction, à savoir que pour notre délégation et les délégations qui sont joints à nous ce matin, nous ne voyons pas nos avis reflétés dans la version originale du bureau. Il nous semble que cette version amendée par la Colombie reflète mieux les discussions de ce matin et ne dilue pas le message, mais permet bien de contextualiser ce message et va permettre une réflexion par le secrétariat pour augmenter les moyens. Et c'est bien le but qui est là, qui est recherché par toutes les délégations. Donc nous alignons vraiment sur la proposition de la Colombie. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. The Netherlands to be followed by Austria. Netherlands, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would also support the amendments made by Colombia, and we totally agreed with what Switzerland has said before. So,
Okay, thank you very much. Now, where are we? Austria to be followed by Saudi Arabia. Austria, please.
Thank you. I will not insist on my proposals of having it a little earlier. Of course, also the evaluation body, if you prefer to skip that, I'm also fine with it. But basically what I would like to favor is the original version, including the amendment by Colombia, and the idea behind that also as expressed by Lithuania and Switzerland just before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Saudi Arabia to be followed by Venezuela.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If you allow me, please, can we scroll up to the title of the points that we're talking about in the document? Can we scroll up? Okay, so it does say the title is annual ceiling, if I'm not mistaken. So it talks about the number of the files, if I'm not mistaken here. Now, I really apologize, Mr. Chair, for the prolonged discussion, but I'm looking forward to reach a consensus here. And with that, I want to draw on the utmost collaboration spirit that we all have here. And yes, we should stick to the annual ceiling as in numbers, and quality should not be jeopardized. I also agree with all members stressing about the quality. With that in mind, maybe I would like to ask Colombia and others, members, Switzerland, Austria, Netherlands, who strongly support Colombia and who see that there is a merit, as we all see, in the issue of including the quality within the points discussed here. With that, I would like to propose that those members come up with a new paragraph for number 4, leaving paragraph 3 as is, because it reflected the floor when you have discussed it earlier. And if I want to recall back, we had option A, option B, and this is how we met in the middle. So I think we should keep 3 as is, and then add another paragraph with all the general ideas, the spirit of the convention, the capacity development, the quality, the evaluating body, all these issues that can be reflected. But please keep 3 as is, and then we can add. And this is, I'm trying here to reach a solution so that we can adopt this or agree on this and move forward. And maybe I want to hear from my colleagues in this regard, if they have a suggestion to reach a consensus. Otherwise, I think now the more we discuss, the more we're going into this vicious circle of not agreeing on number 3. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Now Venezuela to be followed by Colombia, and let's stop there. Venezuela, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think I'll go in line with what the Ambassador of Saudi Arabia has proposed, understanding that perhaps it's best to go back to the original text you presented with the amendment of Portugal and the amendment presented by us, and perhaps at the end of or in your report also make a reference the importance of reviewing or strengthening also the work of the evaluation body, but I think the best is go back to the original text as closely as possible, respecting the mandate of the group, and even as the Ambassador of Saudi Arabia pointed out, the chapter that we're on, the response to a specific need and objective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Colombia, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I believe, I don't think another paragraph is a good idea, in the sense that I believe that would actually dilute more the decision. I don't see how it doesn't. We could strike the purposes of the convention. I think what the ambassador of Morocco said, it's okay. And if you want to leave including the work of the evaluation body up, it's all right as well, I guess. But I really don't see how change. I mean, I'm surprised. So I mean, I really surprised. But if you want to strike the purposes, for me it's okay, because as I think the ambassador of Morocco was right. But the rest, I mean, I don't understand. So I think it's more logical to put it down, because it's more coherent, if you want to leave it up. Because I mean, I don't know how this. I don't understand the problem, because the wording was there. It wasn't even put it by me. So, but as I said at the beginning, I'm super flexible, but I think it's better written the other way around. So if we cannot say, I mean, if we cannot introduce something as important as that, reminding the purposes of the convention, okay, I don't understand that I can be flexible. But the other thing, I mean, I really think this is very funny, because it was really minor. But yet again, it's okay. And also, sorry, to include, like, as Switzerland said, we discussed this a lot, and not all of us were reflected necessary in both of the options. And I really think this is a good one. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. We still have, okay, Morocco, and let's stop after Morocco. Morocco, you have the floor, Ambassador.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense qu'après la dernière intervention de la Colombie, je pense que nous sommes en mesure de parvenir à un consensus, à mon avis. Et si d'aventure quelques États membres souhaitent garder, y compris le travail d'organes d'évaluation, afin d'augmenter le plafond annuel des candidatures, je ne pense pas que ça puisse poser un véritable problème. Moi, à mon avis, le texte tel qu'il est affiché là, en y apportant quelques modifications linguistiques, je pense qu'il est tout à fait adoptable en l'état. Voilà, je pense que nous sommes presque arrivés au consensus, à mon avis, à moins qu'il y ait véritablement un souhait de quelques délégations de ne pas l'adopter tel quel. Je pense qu'avec le petit changement proposé par le Venezuela, le geste de la Colombie qui vient d'être fait, je l'en remercie infiniment. Je pense qu'on peut laisser, y compris le travail d'organes d'évaluation, moi je pense que ça ne pose pas véritablement de problème, ce qui nous permettrait d'avancer et de clore ce point. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, we are continuing getting the request for the floor, but okay, Ambassador Almura, you are the last speaker for now, and I want to offer my suggestions together with Tim. So maybe, okay, Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, like, first of all, thank, Colombia for their, their input, their effort. And I think, what we have in front of us, it looks fine to us. I think when we can move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so can I just confirm where we are? Financial and human resources needed for strengthening the listing mechanism, including the work of the evaluation body and the increase in the annual ceiling of the nominations. Is that what it is? Ambassador Adam, is that acceptable to you? I just want to confirm.
Yes.
Okay. Other delegations? Okay. Colombia, did you raise the hand after Kuwait? Or was it before Kuwait? Colombia?
Thank you, Chair. Should I just say that it can be reflected that when when the Secretariat does this detailed proposal, bears in mind the purposes of the convention? Like in their report, not that this, but like nicely introduction, and like that we don't have to put another paragraph, and we all know what we're talking about, and that's it.
Always bear in mind the purposes of the...
That would be nice.
Okay, on that specific question, the purposes of the convention, I don't think anybody was opposed. I mean, well, this is the first sentence,
Yeah, we deleted, Mr. Chair.
Okay, please.
Because it was too much, but since it had support, what I'm saying is that after, bear in mind members of the Secretariat who are doing a very nice job and who will do a very nice report, bear in mind the integrity of the convention for this, but we are focused on the purpose being of the increase in the annual ceiling. And I think that's a very nice compromise. Don't you think?
Hang on, I'm a bit lost. So you are talking about the first sentence, right?
I'm talking about that I accept very well, which is here, which the ambassador of Kuwait said it's okay, but since I agreed to delete purposes, which is all right, what I'm asking is add a note on a report or whatever they do after this, that where they are doing the proposal of the financial human resources, in the introduction, they bear in mind that this is within the purposes of the convention and that it will impact the whole convention. And so we hope this will be aborted holistically. So it's a footnote. It's a footnote that has to be reflected on the text. It's just to reflect the discussions. Bear in mind for the future elaboration of the proposal to do this. Yeah, did I make?
Yeah, well, I personally don't see any problem in your suggestion.
Great.
I'm just okay, because we have Saudi Arabia. Let's go to Saudi Arabia and then try to conclude this paragraph. Okay, Saudi Arabia, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I agree with Colombia. I think it's a very good suggestion here. And I thank Colombia for its spirit of collaboration. I can hear Tim saying that we always regard the spirit of the convention. But it's also, if this is a request of Colombia, of course we can add. I mean, don't think we should really disagree with that. I just have a small thing to ask from the floor here today. With regard to including the work of the evaluation body, Why did we add the word and? Why didn't we keep in order to increase the annual ceiling of nominations? And this is the purpose. I felt that maybe it was put in another context, but I feel that in order to should remain, and then we can accept and move forward. And I would like to thank Colombia. Thank you.
Okay, can we just see it on the screen? So including the work of the evaluation body in order to increase the annual ceiling. Yeah, you don't need and. Okay, so I want to solicit views on this because we want to close this discussion as soon as possible. Now we have Cuba, Indonesia, Vietnam. Let me give the floor in that order, but please speak short. Okay.
Oui. Oui,
Cuba.
merci, Monsieur le Président. J'ai quelques préoccupations, quelques doutes concernant si est-ce qu'on va renforcer les mécanismes d'inscription. Ces mécanismes ne compris pas seulement l'organe d'évaluation, il compris aussi les comités, parce que c'est l'espace final d'adoption. Et aujourd'hui, nous avons des problèmes pendant la session de réunion, qu'il n'y a pas beaucoup de fonds du temps pour faire l'examen spécifique de chaque dossier. Pour ça, pourquoi pas mettre compris les travaux du système d'évaluation, qui compris l'organe d'évaluation et aussi les comités, et aussi les secrétariats, parce que ça, c'est tous les systèmes. Parce que normalement, les mécanismes d'inscription ne s'arrêtent pas dans l'organe d'évaluation. Ils passent après, et les comités, il y a des implications financières pendant la session, les fonds du temps, les jours qu'on travaille au comité. Ça, c'est aussi une implication financière. Pour ça, que s'il n'y a pas beaucoup de problèmes, on préfère mettre, y compris les travaux du système d'évaluation, d'une façon générale. Mais en tout cas, on va suivre le consensus, mais je pense que c'est une question importante parce que aujourd'hui, nous sommes en train de demander au secrétariat des informations détaillées concernant les ressources financières. Et pourquoi pas les faire, y compris aussi les coûts, les ressources financières associées au comité, aux sessions du comité.
Okay. Well, in that case, including work of the evaluation system instead of body. I mean, if there is no opposition to that is fine. On that basis, let me give the floor to Indonesia, Vietnam, and Burkina Faso in that order. Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, but please speak short, please.
Yes, please. Thank you. I will be short. I just thank you after hearing so many speakers, and we are very happy that we reached the consensus. I think this is a very good compromise, and I just want to make sure. We just want to convince our colleague from Colombia that everything that we do, including the secretariat, we believe that this is on behalf or on the purpose of implementing the convention. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Vietnam to be followed by Burkina Faso. Vietnam, please.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And I wish to thank the whole room for the compromise. And I think we can support the draft as it is on the screen. But I also find the proposal by our Colombian colleague, our Cuban colleague about the committee financial resources for the committee is very good one. So I wonder whether we can make it feasible, and I think it's necessary to listen to the Secretariat regarding these views, at this point. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not reflected there, but there was a suggestion from Cuba that we should replace body by system, evaluation system. Okay, that's it's there. And Vietnam, can I confirm that you support this change?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Burkina Faso, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Burkina voudrait soutenir effectivement le paragraphe que Libé a peut-être avoir des éclaircissements par rapport au dernier amendement le dernier amendement, notamment de Cuba, c'est de savoir est-ce que, je vais dire, quel est l'organe qui le plus, je vais dire, souffre, si je peux m'exprimer ici, du poids des dossiers. Est-ce que c'est l'organe d'évaluation? Si c'est tel est le cas, je pense qu'on peut bien maintenir l'organe d'évaluation. Sinon, autrement, et je pense qu'on pourrait garder la proposition de Cuba. Donc, c'est vraiment une question d'éclaircissement par rapport à la procédure. Voilà, merci.
Okay, thank you very much. Malaysia is the last speaker, and I will stop the discussion at that time. Thank you. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. After a lengthy deliberation, Malaysia agrees to the draft, which is now on screen, and the proposition by Cuba, I think it encompasses the whole picture. So Malaysia would like to add its name under the Cuba's proposal.
Thank you very much. So I would like to conclude this discussion by what we have on the screen at this moment in time. Well, this is a bit long, so I'm not going to read it again. But, the evaluation body, it was a capital body, but since the evaluation system in general, perhaps we can go back to small e and small s. So with that, I would like to close our discussions, and unless there is anybody who has a violent opposition to it, please, for the sake of consensus, maybe it's not time to develop another argument. Ambassador Samuel, are you opposed to this? Ambassador of Morocco, are you?
Non, absolument pas, Monsieur le Président. Je ne m'oppose pas du tout. Au contraire, je soutiens l'amendement proposé par Cuba. Et simplement dans un souci linguistique, parce que quand on parle de mécanismes d'inscription sur les listes, y compris le travail du système d'évaluation. Le système d'évaluation est global. Et donc, là, je pense que ça fait doublon. Si l'on parle de mécanisme d'inscription et de système d'évaluation dans sa globalité, moi, il y a quelque chose un peu qui fait doublon ici. Soit on parle directement du système d'évaluation, et c'est pour ça que tout à l'heure, dans mon intervention, j'avais souhaité qu'on s'arrête à un mécanisme d'inscription, parce que dans mon esprit, ça englobe l'ensemble du système. Mais bon, pour être un peu plus clair pour les uns et les autres, on a décidé de rajouter l'organe d'évaluation, maintenant le système d'évaluation. Mais si on met système d'évaluation, à mon avis, mécanisme d'inscription ne se justifie plus.
Well...
Bon, mais maintenant, si le texte comme il est vous arrange, moi je me joins au consensus, je n'ai absolument pas de problème, c'est juste une remarque parce que je l'ai texté en français devant les yeux et ça me paraît un peu, voilà, la composition linguistique telle qu'elle est sur l'écran est un peu bizarre en termes de compréhension. Parce que quand on parle de système d'évaluation, il est global. Effectivement, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec Madame l'ambassadeur de Cuba. Non.
Yeah, I do not disagree with Your Excellency on this point, but, I would like to avoid further discussions on this point because it took a long time to come here. So for that reason, I'm sorry for that, but for the sake of consensus, can we just keep it as it is, if you don't mind? Any other delegations for that matter? Okay, I see no objection on this point. So let's leave this topic and to move to something else right now. Now, okay, paragraph 4. This is about the issue of priority. And I think what we have on the screen at this moment reflects the previous discussions. And I don't think we need to have further discussions on this point. Any objections to this particular paragraph? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much for your understanding. And paragraph 5 and 6, the paragraph 5 is about a transfer between the list, and the paragraph 6 is about the extension or reduction. Now we have already agreed on the lighter process for those items. Now the issue here is whether this particular requests are outside the annual ceiling or within the annual ceiling. That was an issue. Now we have agreed on the maintenance of the current number. We will keep the number at 60 for now. So therefore, we would like to propose that the request for transfer, extension, reduction should be outside the annual ceiling for review. So outside of the 60. But this is on an experimental basis, and we will come back to this point. We will review this at the 10th session of the General Assembly. This means that in the 10th session of the General Assembly, we will also discuss the human resources and the number of files. Then at the same time, we will review this system. We will review this agreement. For now, the request for the transfer, extension, reduction will be outside the annual ceiling on an experimental basis. But this will be reviewed at the 10th session of the General Assembly. Because if the total number changes, and this may also have to change. So in that context, this can be done on an experimental basis. In 2 years' time, we may be in a way painfully aware that there are quite a few requests for extensions. That could happen. So let's see what happens and then come back to this point in 2 years' time. That is a suggestion from the Bureau. Now, do we have any points on this? I recognize China. So China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor. Actually, I'm not against this paragraph exactly, but I have a specific question first regarding to paragraph 4. In this paragraph, it is that the overall ceiling to be dedicated to multinational files without affecting priority 0 and priority 1 categories, and to establish a prioritization system within the multinational files quota. My question is that how will this quota be defined, and what kind of prioritization system will be adopted for this quota? Will this working group to be mandated to discuss on this, or we would leave it until the intergovernmental committee? And also regarding to the paragraph 5 and paragraph 6, since many of the members of the working group agreed to move the the new procedures regarding the transfer, the extension, or the reduction of the files to be outside of the annual ceiling. As you may recall, that my delegation made a compromise on the top of the number of the ceiling for the first part of the recommendation. But our original proposal is to include these extensions within the top ceiling, because we do believe that these kind of new procedures will consume the resources and not only the financial, but also the human resources of the Secretariat and also the evaluation body. That is why we would suggest to include all these within the top ceiling, so that we could imagine that they are manageable and under control. But however, we can go with the paragraphs like this, they are now. But still our concern that since they are still unpredictable and we are going to take them as on an experimental basis. So I just want to reiterate our concern on this point. But we can make the compromise on that to go with the consensus of the working group. And we do believe that during our process of the reflection and the discussion and the debates of the overall listing mechanism, we do believe there are so many other issues that underneath this process that was to be discussed in the future if we have the chances for the working group to work on that, such as there are so many transversal issues regarding to so many misinterpretation of the convention, like some disputes and also some kind of issues that might compromise those mutual respect and mutual understanding among the communities and the groups and individuals. So we would look very much like to have the chance to have those further issues to be discussed if there's any more opportunities, because we also want this reflection to be an ongoing process. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. On the last point, perhaps we have to discuss it at some stage in the General Assembly. Whether we should continue our working group, or perhaps whether we should leave it to the Swedish working group, or whatever it is. We have to deal with that kind of things in the context of the General Assembly. This working group will have to fulfill its mandate. Now, yes, well, on paragraph 4, I want to get a clarification from team, and I have some views on 5 and 6. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, indeed, it will be for the committee, if needed, to set this quota for the multinationals. And how to prioritize will be ultimately the committee and perhaps eventually a General Assembly. Again, in these 5 paragraphs, we're now coming into new areas, and the experience, they're trying to, in these 3 paragraphs, sorry, they're trying to project what might happen. So the idea essentially is to make sure, as I read this paragraph, that all priority 0s and 1s are treated. And then, if we don't have enough space to deal with all multinationals, then we will need to find a system, and we will work with the committee to prioritize among the multinationals that are to be dealt with. If, on the other hand, we get to priority 3 or 2 being multinationals priority 3, then there may be a desire to the possibility to put this quota on the multinationals and absorb 3. So it's giving flexibility to the committee to manage the relationship between the national and multinational files, while in this version now prioritizing priority 0, of course, and priority 1. I remind those, again, priority 0 is the guarantee of 1 file every 2 years, and priority 1 is the priority for those states that have no element inscribed. I hope this clarifies that issue.
Thank you very much. And also on paragraphs 5 and 6, the points made by China are very well taken. Yes, indeed. So when we discussed the increase of the number of files to be treated annually, we have to come back to this issue at the same time. Now, it is, of course, very true that we don't know what's going to happen in terms of the number of requests for extension, particularly for extension, multinational extension in particular. So for the time being, because we don't know what's going to happen, this is a new mechanism. We don't know what's going to happen, and therefore, let's see what happens. But in the meantime, this should stay outside the annual ceiling for now, on an experimental basis. That's probably the compromise that we can reach at this stage in time. So with that, Cuba, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et merci à Monsieur Ting pour votre explication. Nous sommes tout à fait d'accord que c'est très important de fixer une allocation pour les dossiers multinationaux. À notre point de vue, ça c'est la question qui a déséquilibré un peu aussi les systèmes les numéros des dossiers qui sont présentés. Pour ça, est-ce que pour nous c'est très important de supprimer si nécessaire. Comme c'est une expérience, c'est tous ces mécanismes qu'on va approuver, qu'on va présenter à l'Assemblée, c'est à titre expérimental. Nous devons aussi fixer cette allocation et pour ça, ce qu'on propose, éliminer si nécessaire pour pouvoir commencer à regarder comment est-ce qu'il marche ces mécanismes avec une allocation fixe pour les dossiers multinationaux. Et je voudrais remercier aussi pour la compréhension de que, qu'on vient de nous l'exprimer dans ces paragraphes, la priorité sera justement le système de priorité zéro sur les mécanismes pour assurer que tous les États membres peuvent présenter quelques dossiers une fois chaque 12 années et aussi pouvoir avancer un peu dans tous les dossiers qui sont déjà présentés dans notre cycle et qui ne pouvaient pas passer bien dans le processus. Je pense que sera nécessaire de faire cette allocation et pour ça, ce qu'on propose de supprimer si nécessaire. Merci.
Yeah, thank you very much. With that, can I assume that, sorry? Okay, sorry. On that particular point made by Cuba, please, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to explain why we have if needed. The reason we have if needed is we don't know, and also basing on this year as opposed to last year, we see this as a fallback system in case we cannot absorb everything we've received. And so the priority states, so the allocation may not be needed if we have less. That's the point. If we only get a few multinationals, we don't need to make that allocation. Or it could be seen as the other way. We might need to make sure they get in, but normally not. So I feel that if needed gives the flexibility, again, on an experimental basis, or maybe we can change on an, if needed to, on an experimental basis, if that helps. But can you see that without knowing which numbers are coming in, it might not even be appropriate to set that, but we want to have the option of doing it. I think the committee has the option. So that's my addressing to that issue.
Okay, can I go back to Cuba? Would that be okay for you?
Oui, nous sommes pour le consensus, Monsieur le Président. Je comprends l'explication qui vient de nous donner Tim Curtis, mais notre préoccupation est que, à notre point de vue, chaque année, il y a plus d'expédients multinationales. Probablement, c'est en perception que nous avons. Probablement, le secrétariat, il y a d'informations avec des statistiques plus clair que moi-même, mais notre sensation, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, les mécanismes de présentation des dossiers multinationaux, ils déséquilibre un peu le système de priorité zéro. Parce que quand il y a un pays qui ne peut pas présenter dans cette année, dans un cycle, parce qu'il y a déjà une présentation dans le cycle précédent, il n'y a rien qui limite le numéro de dossiers qu'il peut présenter en tant que dossier multinational. Nous savons l'exprimer. Il y a des pays qui présentent 3-4 des dossiers multinationaux dans les années, justement dans les moments qu'il n'y a pas de possibilité de les faire dans les mécanismes de priorité zéro. Dans tout cas, je suis sûre que la secrétariat, il y a plus d'informations, mais je pense que c'est une question très importante à souligner qui fait un déséquilibre dans le système de façon en général. Et merci. Nous sommes dans votre main, votre président.
Okay, well, in that case, on an experimental basis, would that be agreeable to you? Ambassador of Cuba, on an
Oui, bien sûr. Oui,
okay, okay. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Now, with that, I would like to leave 4, 5, 6 and move to 7. Again here, well, this one in fact is the composition and method of work in the evaluation body. This does not change this time. So we simply took it from the former option A. And so in that context, I don't think this is contentious anymore, unless the member states who supported option B have an issue. So can I just confirm that there is an opposition to this paragraph? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you very much. Now we are moving to paragraph 8. Paragraph 8, the issue of backlog, after considerable discussions, I think the current formulation takes all the points expressed, suggested in our discussion earlier. That is our impression, but would that be okay for the delegations, for the members in the room? Venezuela, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question, and I just think perhaps all the files that are older than 4 years to be removed from the backlog, while inviting for to submit to update. The only problem, I think we should extend perhaps the framework in view to unclog the system, we could say like that, because seeing that 80 plus 82 files, if I'm not mistaken, given the recent numbers provided by the Secretariat, are within the backlog, it would be quite an effort from the member states who are involved in this to update all of this, and then them not being reviewed within the time frame of 4 years. So they would have to do two rounds of updating, and they would be taken away from the backlog. So perhaps we could evaluate this from a two-point perspective, which perhaps seems that yes, they have to be reviewed. The file has to be, when it's time for its review, it has to be before 4 years, evidently, so it's updated. However, perhaps for those, especially that are that have 6, 12, 21, or 22 or 23 files in the backlog, perhaps there could be also a planning, a process of dialogue with those member states specifically, so they have a planning on when this would be reviewed or to withdraw from the backlog. That's just an idea, because that's the thing is that considering the number, that again the volume versus the time, it just does not seem completely feasible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other views? Peru to be followed. Peru, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like just to have a clarification regarding this part that in the paragraph 8 that says to be treated expeditiously within the framework of the prioritization system. So it's not clear for me. It would be it would have a priority, a treatment. Those files that would be updated. I'm not sure if that's what the delegation wanted, or so. What kind of treatment, a special treatment, would have the file that it's updated?
Well, honestly, this is what we call the constructive ambiguity. I'm sorry to say this, but it's actually clearly stated there within the framework of the prioritization system. That means you cannot get two files evaluated in the same year. That's impossible. You have to be in accordance with the rules set out. So in that sense, there is no particular privilege for those files. But at the same time, when the countries, when the member states try to update the files, it probably means that they have a priority on the particular file, and therefore, in that sense, people should be kind to them. That's all, Mr. Curtis, do you want to clarify?
Indeed, just to fully agree that this is a bit of constructive ambiguity. In a sense, what this is saying is that the overall prioritization system is not changing, but the submitting state does need to make priorities. So it doesn't help, as was mentioned, and if I may say, by Venezuela, that was mentioned by Venezuela, if we get another 22 new submissions at the same time, knowing that the ability to absorb is one every 2 years. So this decision should help clear the backlog, part of which will come back to the work of the evaluation body and absorbing it. And I think the numbers show that we are absorbing 4 or 5 every year from the real backlog as opposed to the category 0 backlog. On the other hand, there are a lot of files which were all submitted in one go and which are unrealistic for the prioritization. So that is what we meant by also expeditiously processing the system within the prioritization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just to hopefully to move forward, Mr. Chair, I think, hopefully, with the paragraph 3, that's when we said, we'll have the resources and we'll increase the, ceiling. We will get rid of this. We don't have a long, backlog, and it will not be more than once to be updated. So, I suggest to my colleagues that we accept, this is, as best as we could, and to accept this paragraph and, move to the next one before we know we are still, I think we have less than an hour. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Perhaps the points that Venezuela mentioned can be included in the report. Yeah, well, I understand the rationale for that, but at the same time, we shouldn't dwell on that too much, because there are only a handful of countries who have that many backlog files. Okay, we see Colombia. Is this about this backlog issue?
Yes, Chair, but it's simple and precise.
Okay, please go ahead.
Because I'm with you that we could, and with Ambassador of Kuwait, that we could leave it like that, but maybe to include with the view to unclog the backlog within the 6 cycles or something like that, to know that we have to bear that in mind. But if you think it's not necessary, it will be okay. But I mean, I guess we all know that this is something that we will have to address again in the future, so we might as well put it on black and white.
Sorry. Okay. Well, my preference would be to include those things in the report rather than having further discussions on the language in the draft recommendation. Okay. Thank you. And Venezuela, you have a hand raised. Is this about the same thing? If it is, please.
Yes. It was in order to thank Colombia for the proposal. Indeed, for us, for example, we're not ones that are affected by it, but because this is a discussion that has been coming up for many times and many cycles. It's kind of looking forward, in order to solving and in the spirit of solidarity, because again, Venezuela, for example, has been considered now as an active file. We're not really the ones that are causing the backlog, but it's in that spirit, and perhaps it could be picked up in your oral report. What we just want is that those who are affected by it or that are able to deal with it in an effective manner, they do not do not cause any unnecessary frictions and upset. Thank you very much.
Yeah, your spirit is well understood. Yes, but I think I would like to include those things in the report. Okay, instead of starting drafting exercises, can we just move ahead with the understanding that the points you made, of course, are very valid and therefore to be included in the report when I explain this to the General Assembly. Okay, thank you very much. Now let's move to other issues. 3 of them have been already agreed, I think. Paragraph 9 is about topic 6. And we have agreed on this one earlier this afternoon. Now, the same applies to paragraph 10. So this has already been agreed earlier in this session. Now, we have issue on 11, but let me just confirm that the last one has also been agreed earlier in this session. So the only remaining issue for now is paragraph 11. Now this is, the Bureau has not looked at this because we didn't have enough time. So what is shown on the screen is not a fixed proposal from anybody in particular. I just want to restart our discussions. Now in terms of the time frame, absolute time limit for us today is at 6:30. So we have extended the time a little bit so that we can agree on this last item. So what you have in the screen is an effort, is a result of an effort which is a result of our effort to try to capture many of the points. I wouldn't say all, but most of the points in our discussions earlier. Now, please have a look at this, and if you have any comments, please make your comments. This is the last item. Okay, let me go to the list of speakers. Portugal to be followed by Saudi Arabia. Portugal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do believe that the draft on screen captures the debate earlier on. We have just a small suggestion. We do believe that it is not strictly necessary, and it will be helpful to delete the following. So in the second line, where it is by the committee that results from, we would suggest results from an accelerated processing or from accelerated processing, meaning the unforeseen element that could justify could be deleted. The rationale for this is that this would also help in the sense of many interventions earlier on, of not recognizing or foreseeing any kind of fast track. That will be our suggestion. But overall, we do believe that it captures well the debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Portugal. Now we have Saudi Arabia to be followed by Colombia. Saudi Arabia, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. With regard to a Portugal amendment, I would like to hear from the floor and maybe reflect at a later stage. I think the paragraph as is fair, yet I still have an issue with what is considered to be exceptional. And I think we need a criteria for that. The idea here, because I know I have followed the discussion and, to be discussed by the bureau of the committee before the committee, and I remember Colombia saying that the bureau has more consistency or has more easier time frame to deal with things. And I can understand that, but given that, I think the burden that is put on the bureau here is not going to yield useful results. Now, giving this introduction, what is the criteria? What do we mean by exceptional cases? Is it arbitrary? Is it going to be my word against your word or against any other person's word? And that's going to, again, open the Pandora box for us. And with that, I would like to add a sentence in the second paragraph here to say, after the bureau of the committee, before with the understanding. Yes, here to say that based on an agreed upon criteria. I heard also from Malaysia, I heard from Burkina Faso, when they asked what kind of criteria that are going to help us reach a proper decision in this regard. With that, I would like to listen to the floor. I think now it makes clear sense, clear steps for us to discuss these issues and to avoid any future confusion that have risen and may raise in the future. With regard to the Portugal amendment, I will come back to it if we have any strong feeling with or against. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much. Okay, now with those two suggestions on the screen, can I go to Colombia to be followed by Venezuela? Colombia, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to say that I actually liked the paragraph, and I'm liking it more now. So I believe the amendments of Saudi Arabia are interesting. Maybe if you could explain how, because then we will have to agree to a criteria. So that agreed criteria will be done before. Otherwise, I think it's very important to have that agreed criteria. And regarding the Portugal amendment. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, we could agree also, because it doesn't matter if it's unforeseen or not, but so it will be okay. So basically, I said anything, but I support both. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Venezuela to be followed by China. Venezuela, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, for us, we agree. First of all, we want to thank the Secretariat, and also want to. I think Saudi Arabia's proposal is very. It does improve the text. It will be important, perhaps, in the more than here in the report, to indicate how or where this criteria will be established and discussed, so we can all agree upon it. This will also make it easier for us in our countries, because evidently when there's a fast track, that we have to reply to our countries that that perhaps they want to fast track an item, that we have to be able to say and give us the tools to be able to say, no, we do not fall within the criteria to fast track any elements. Just, I have one question or observation with regard to the end, and it says with the understanding that does this not impact on the procedures foreseen. Perhaps there's a different wording. I preferred personally understanding that it would not include cases falling under extreme urgency under Article 7.3 of the Convention. I was presented before the break, because my understanding, I could be completely mistaken, that it does not impact, it means it could leave ground to perhaps a revision of 17.3, and which I don't think is the case or the objective. So, because we're not having an impact on that, we're just talking about that now, the unforeseen circumstances. So I would repeat again, and I could include it in the chat, understanding that it would not include cases falling under extreme urgency under Article 17.3. But that's, again, it's from my understanding what impact means. But if I'm mistaken, then we can withdraw it without problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to other delegations. Okay, China to be followed by Malaysia. China, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor. My delegation do appreciate very much the assistance by the Secretariat for drafting this paragraph. My delegation has two comments, actually. First one is regarding to the exceptional cases, because we don't think that this paragraph, current paragraph, address the question of what exactly the exceptional cases are. As we can recall that according to the introduction of the Secretariat, we do have the clear definition and a process to deal with those emergency cases. And also, as we can recall that the General Assembly adopted the operational principles and the modalities for safeguarding ICH emergencies at its 8th session in 2020. Maybe we could take some advantages of these kind of principles and to draw up some similar definitions or as processes for these exceptional cases. This just be a possible suggestion. And my Second comment is regarding to the second part of this paragraph, regarding to the procedure between the Bureau and the committee to decide on the exceptional cases. Our concern is that in the principle of the equal opportunity for all those files to be examined or reviewed, and also as well as the principle of transparency, we would like to have the committee as well as the Bureau to have a very well-informed situation to deal with these exceptional cases, because sometimes they do come very late. So we would suggest that if the committee would like to decide on these cases with the based on the initial discussion by the Bureau, it should be well informed in advance. So we would suggest to add some expression of this kind after the Bureau, just like as early as possible. At an earliest possible date in advance, something like that. Maybe you can help me with the wording. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you get the wording from the Chinese suggestion?
No, we didn't. What was the wording? Okay. That should be reviewed after the.
Okay, thank you very much.
As soon as possible.
Okay, now let me now give the floor to Malaysia, to be followed by Saudi Arabia. Malaysia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regard to the draft appear on screen, there are two observations. One is the word that the second sentence, because of the increase in the number of files to be examined by the committee, that results and accelerated processing as proposed by Portugal. Malaysia feels that there's something not quite right with the sentence. Malaysia would like to suggest that we could actually change the word that results to lead. Because, when you say that results, it has to be from something. That is Malaysia's opinion. So because of the increase in the number of files to be examined by the committee leads to an accelerated processing, then that is the first observation. And Malaysia can go along with the proposed suggestion by Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. And also one more thing, that it is also important to have a clear definition of exceptional cases, because this will eventually avoid any further arising issues in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Secretariat can come back. No, not now. When all the people speak. Now, Saudi Arabia to be followed by Burkina Faso. Saudi Arabia, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have 2 points. One with regard to the Portugal amendment. I like to simplify languages mostly, but this one I'm not very comfortable with. I would like still to hear from the floor, but to say that I'm not much in favor of it, if I can say. And with another thing, the question that was, how can we create the criteria? And I think Venezuela also said a very interesting point, that we can also say, or Your Excellency, you can, in your report, give the decision, of course, to the General Assembly, where they can mandate whoever they see fit, a team, set the criteria themselves, have it within the committee to set this criteria so that we can all agree in it, and it can be clear and it can be followed, and we can avoid the confusion. So this is one way to go about it, but definitely there should be a criteria in this regard. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. now we have 4 more delegations wanting to take the floor, but I think we, okay, sorry, I'm just mindful that we have only 25 minutes left. So let's just finish with those delegations wanting to take the floor, and then I would like to offer my observation. If I cannot succeed in convincing the room this issue, we have to come back again only for this one at a future date, I'm afraid. Okay, having said that, Burkina Faso to be followed by Lithuania.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Et en fait, le Burkina voudrait effectivement soutenir la proposition d'établir notamment les critères, d'établir un certain nombre de critères pour définir exactement les cas exceptionnels tels que l'a évoqué notamment l'Arabie saoudite, et voudrait en tout cas soutenir cette proposition. Maintenant, quitte à effectivement savoir est-ce que c'est au niveau de l'Assemblée générale ou bien est-ce que c'est entre le comité et le bureau, bon, le comité et le bureau a ensuite le comité ou les deux exactement qui vont notamment déterminer ces critères. Je pense que c'est très important de soulever effectivement la base des critères sur lesquels qui seront établis. En tout cas, la direction du Burkina soutient donc la proposition de l'Arabie saoudite. Merci. Maintenant, excusez, par rapport au reste, notamment la proposition du Venezuela sur n'incluant pas les cas relatifs à la scène d'urgence ou n'auront pas d'impact sur les procédures, je pense qu'il n'y a véritablement pas, c'est plutôt une question de forme. Je pense qu'il y a le fond hier. En tout cas, pour ce qui concerne, pour ce que pense en tout cas la délégation burkinabé. Je vous remercie. Merci.
Thank you very much. Just to facilitate the discussions, I want to hear the reactions from the floor about several things. First of all, the most important point is actually a suggestion from Saudi Arabia. Now, on the one hand, the Bureau and the committee has to make a decision based on agreed criteria. Agreed criteria is very important, but at the same time, this is not something that we can agree in 20 minutes. So, the suggestion, as I understand it, is for the General Assembly to mandate somebody or group or whatever it is to discuss and perhaps what should be the agreed criteria. So this is, in effect, this is not the decision for now for this working group, but the decision should be made in the future about this agreed criteria. That is one suggestion on which I want to hear views from the Burkina Faso has expressed its support right now. But the remaining delegations, please indicate whether you support this Saudi Arabian proposal or not. This is perhaps the most important issue. Now, Venezuelan suggestion, more or less supported by Burkina Faso. I think this is fine. This is fine. There may be a better presentation, but the meaning of the sentence is exactly what it was meant to be. So, yes, indeed. So, any delegations who have a suggestion to make this sentence better, it's very much welcome. The Portugal proposal, well, there have been many observations, but they are not very straightforward. I very much welcome any suggestions, language suggestions for this one as well. So with that in mind, Lithuania to be followed by Kuwait.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In fact, you said that I wanted to react, especially to this proposal about this agreed criteria by Saudi Arabia supported by Colombia and Burkina Faso. I think that it is premature now to put here the agreed criteria, as we have no, for a moment, being any criteria on which we have agreed. So I think that maybe if it's crucial to have such criteria. I understand and I fully support the idea, but maybe we should add something in the end of the statement that we ask the Secretariat to also to draft or to elaborate the draft criteria for the next I don't know General Assembly but I think for now we have the situation that we should address the exceptional cases to the Bureau and just we should rely on the existent system without criteria for the moment being. So I think it's premature to put it here as we see. So we are not very in favor of this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Kuwait to be followed by Colombia. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to be quickly, Kuwait also would like to add their names on the Saudi Arabia, Colombia, Burkina Faso. Also, we agreed with China is to have it, in file as soon as possible. We have no issues with Venezuela. And, before I finish, a couple of things, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, regarding the Portugal, we'd rather to keep the original language. The reason of that is, this language was when it was suggested by Morocco, it was to remove the word fast tracking. Some member states saying, fast tracking, that's, a word that they would not like to see it. So this was more a compromise for the language of fast tracking. So Kuwait would rather to keep the original language. And finally, Mr. Chair, like you said, I think we are agreeing on to mention in your oral report that, the approved criteria or the criteria for the urgent or for the exceptional cases, is to be discussed in the General Assembly where they put, the roadmap. Is it another working group? And I might add, not just, in your, if you may allow me, in your oral report, not just the criteria, but also if you can add is the definition of exceptional cases, because of this, we heard it a lot today. What's exceptional cases? So, also in the new report is to ask for the agreed criteria, or to a criteria, and the definition of exceptional cases. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Colombia to be followed by Morocco.
Thank you, Chair. So we would like to be added to the wording that Venezuela proposed and now Burkina Faso and I think Kuwait also was agreed, also because we did it before. So we like that language. And we agreed also on the China proposition as soon as possible. And I think, yes, I think it's a very good idea. And we would like to propose a language which could be like in a following, I don't know if a following paragraph, so this paragraph would be too long, but, and I think it captures what Kuwait just said, it could be. Furthermore, the working group, I don't know if we invite the Secretariat or, well, you will help me with that word. Furthermore, the working group invites the Secretariat to recommend possible criteria to define exceptional cases. Would that maybe work? And like that, we know that also, and I don't know if you want to add to be submitted for the next General Assembly, if it's not too much work, but I think we are in a good momentum. So maybe we can actually go for it, but I don't know if the Secretariat will be able to have time to do it. So that will be even better.
Okay, we have 15 more minutes. Now we have 4 delegations asking for the floor. Now don't increase it anymore. It's relatively clear that we cannot get this today. So there are so many issues. Now I would like to ask 4 delegations to speak very quickly, and then ask Tim to come back on some of the points raised, and I will probably have to make a proposal for the future after that. Okay, now Malaysia to be followed by Morocco. Please speak short.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, is that Malaysia is uncomfortable with the proposal. It's not clear with the proposal by Portugal. So it would be preferable to go back to the original draft, and would like to add Malaysia's name under the proposal by China, Venezuela, and the last one by Colombia.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Morocco to be followed by Venezuela. Morocco, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Rapidement, je souscris également à l'amendement chinois, à la proposition également de l'Arabie Saoudite. Si possible, simplement, au lieu de mettre sur la base des critères établis, je mettrais peut-être sur la base des critères agréés, si ça ne dérange pas. Et puis, parce que effectivement, la question des critères est fondamentale et essentielle, et je pense qu'elle devra être agréée par l'Assemblée. Et puis, je suis parfaitement d'accord par rapport à la proposition du Venezuela et de la Colombie. Voilà, merci Monsieur le Président.
Venezuela to be followed by Vietnam.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll try to be brief. We support Saudi Arabia's call for the first para, the part of para 11 to remain as it was originally presented. I think it is best hearing what it has been said. Also, we support China's proposal in regards to as soon as possible. And we do also support the Colombian proposal, and furthermore, the working groups invites the Secretary to recommend possible criteria to define exceptional cases. In this regard, we do believe the criteria evidently and definition as such is important. I would just have one question for the Secretary in this regard. Because at this moment, they should know, I'm guessing, if there, quote unquote, there would be an unforeseen element up for possible inscription under this exceptional basis for the December, the 2022 cycle. I hope there isn't, because especially if there isn't, then I don't think there should be any problem or concern referring to based on agreed criteria, because that would allow us to have enough time to actually come to an agreement with a criteria. But the whole idea is that it will be an agreed criteria. So if they could respond that, I think then we could respond to that, and then I think we can move forward and move on to the next para. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vietnam to be followed by Egypt. Vietnam, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm very brief to save time that Vietnam supports the proposal by China, by Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and also the last point proposed by Colombia regarding the possible criteria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Egypt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to support the proposal of Saudi Arabia and the last one for Colombia. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Now, Tim.
Thank you. I just have one little comment, and I hope this doesn't, but I just feel that for the Venezuela proposal, rather than it would not include, would it be possible to say this does not concern? What we don't want is to eliminate inadvertently the possibility of a bureau procedure which was already recognized under the convention. So it would not include means that it could in no case include, whereas what you're saying, if I understand, is that this does not concern the procedures. It would not include cases falling under extreme urgency foreseen under it. So if we could have, rather than this does not include, this does not concern, then it's just very clear, if I may. On the other four, yes, we will work as requested, if need be, to propose criteria within the frameworks. I mean, these have to be agreed on. It's understood within the proper intergovernmental frameworks as they emerge. Time-wise, I'm not really ready right now to say exactly when we might have them all ready.
Okay, thank you very much. So now on the basis of the discussions, let me sort this out. First of all, thank you for the suggestion for the first part. I would like to appreciate efforts by the Portugal to come up with this formulation. But nevertheless, I have an impression the room does not necessarily support this amendment, and this has a history. This is a short history in the afternoon. So could I suggest that we should go back to the original formulation in relation to the suggestion from Portugal, and then suggestion from China as soon as possible. I don't see, well, many people supported this, but so we should take this. And then suggestion from Saudi Arabia essentially was based on agreed criteria. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard that what we have to agree is this, only this, agreed criteria. Then in my report to the General Assembly, I would like to suggest that discussions should take place in the General Assembly, and possibly, well, establish some kind of group to discuss this issue. Or perhaps, the General Assembly may entrust this issue to the committee. Whatever it is, the discussion should take place there. So at this moment in time, we don't need to make more specifications about the process ahead. So just take the suggestion from Saudi Arabia based on agreed criteria. Now, finally, Secretary just clarified that this does not concern is a better formulation. It doesn't change the meaning of it, but the concern is probably better. Perhaps if there is no violent objection to this, we can take this proposal from the Secretariat. Now, finally, the Colombia proposal for the Secretariat to come up with some possible criteria for discussion. Nobody has any objection to it, so we can take it as such. Now, what about this as a final agreement? This is my last effort. If we cannot meet if I couldn't meet the expectations of the room, perhaps we have to postpone this to a later date for further discussions. But can we agree with this? Morocco, please.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, vous m'avez précédé, donc c'est ce que je voulais éventuellement proposer. Effectivement, voilà, je vois que nous ne sommes pas très loin de pouvoir boucler ce point. Je n'ai pas d'objection, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anybody who has opposition to this? To my great pleasant surprise, I cannot see any hand raised. This is the last item, so if you don't have any objections to this, we are done, completely done. So, okay, I don't seem to see any objections to this. Thank you very, very much. So as a result, I think we were able to agree on the entire document. This is the end of the working group exercise. Thank you very much once again. Well, I don't have any text to close this, but do we have any?
Everyone put your mic on and clap.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so,
congratulations, Chair.
Sorry?
Congratulations to all.
Good job, Chair. Good job, everyone.
Yeah, Tim wants to say something, please.
Thank you, and first of all, thank you, everybody. I also feel, I think, as relieved as everybody clapping and smiling at the moment here. Just again, going forward, normally our recommendations will be examined by the 5th extraordinary session of the committee, which is expected to be held on the 31st of May. But what we are seeing now with the recommendations, very few, possibly only one, at this stage requires revisions to the operational directives. And that is the only one I can see clearly now, and we need to go to legal and check this, is moving all international assistance requests to the Bureau is the one example we know actually requires an operational directives. In my opinion at this stage, and to be confirmed, the rest could probably be done by decisions of the General Assembly, which then might be able to go straight. So in that sense, depending on the volume, there might be a possibility of doing this through an electronic consultation of the committee, if that's acceptable, or we go ahead with the actual full session. But if it's a full session just to approve one operational directive change, it does seem perhaps a little bit of overkill, and we could do it through electronics. So the proposal, again, we'll need to come back, and perhaps we will share with the committee members informally. But if it's a very small, if the operational directives amendments are not major, they could perhaps be agreed upon in an intergovernmental, in an electronic format, and then the full discussions to have with the decisions adopted by the GA and the recommendations forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just saw communication saying that we have not done paragraph 12, but in fact paragraph 12 I have already mentioned in my statement earlier that we have agreed on the language there in the afternoon session. So I think that is indeed the end of it. Well, if I were a chair of FA, I would probably say, can we agree on this draft decision in its entirety? That's the last thing that I have to say. But I would assume that this is a working group exercise, and because we have agreed on all the components, we are at the very end of our exercise. So once again, I would like to express my appreciation to all the members of this working group, and it was a great experience for me in many ways. And I think we have been able to achieve quite a lot in this working group. And I'm particularly impressed, because I have chaired several meetings, I'm particularly impressed by a very friendly and constructive atmosphere in this particular working group. I highly appreciate that. And finally, I have to express my appreciation to the interpreters. Thank you very much for indulgence, and also for all the people who supported us in our work, because there are quite a few people who have been working on this working group. Yesterday, we got a communication after midnight. So thank you very much for all the efforts that you have making. With this, I would like to close our working group exercise. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Chair, and thank you all. Congratulations to all. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you everybody. Thank you, and congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Yeah, and thank you, Magda. Thank you.
And thank you to Tim and the whole team.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you,
Chair, and thank you, everybody.